Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Cowley. I'm CEO of the town of Gawler. Unfortunately, at last night's council meeting, the audio was playing up and didn't broadcast out to you, our community, so you could actually hear what was going on at the council meeting. So this morning, I thought it appropriate for me just to reasonably quickly run through what happened at last night's council meeting for your benefit. So the first item of business on the agenda was the Concordia Code Amendment. And it was particularly the submission that Town of Gawler was going to make to that. Now, we had a number of representations that presented to council before the meeting started about this topic. I'm actually pleased to say that council took that feedback on board, and as a result, they adopted the submission that was attached to the agenda papers, but they actually moved the change, and they actually changed the resolution to include that they would encourage the state to actively consider Cowbeeba Road as an entry point into Gawler. Now, at this point, the government hasn't actively costed that option or explored it, but the council felt strongly that that should be something the government takes on board. The other change that was made to the resolution that was in the papers was a short précis was added so that you, our members of the community, could gain a very quick understanding about what was covered in council's submission to the proposed Concordia development. I'll just quickly read out the bits that were added for your benefit. So point one, the submission was seeking to get resolution of the off-site road impacts within the town of Gawler to handle the increased traffic volumes and increased freight movements as a result of the construction activities in Concordia, specifically advocating for Cowbeeba Road to be considered as an entry point into the town of Gawler. Number two, seeking resolution of the rail upgrades between the existing end of the line at Gawler Central and proposed Concordia train station, particularly addressing the rail crossing at Murray Street. Point three, resolving the timing of the Sturt Highway connection into Concordia, seeking to assign a housing lot trigger to ensure that it is constructed as a matter of urgency. Point four, resolving the timing of the Concordia freight route, seeking for this to be constructed as a priority to ensure that no further freight burden is placed upon the town of Gawler road network. Point five, resolving the impact on local streets, particularly seeking a solution for Edith Street traffic volumes and also traffic volumes generally on Murray Street and Lyndoch Road. Seeking greater certainty on stormwater management and water cycle management in Concordia, noting that the increased development would cause greater levels of stormwater runoff that needs to be addressed. And the last point was confirmation of the infrastructure deed requirements prior to the Code Amendment finalisation. This is critical to ensure that interventions that are to be funded by parties other than the town of Gawler are fully costed and that the relevant funding collected and allocated as required without placing additional financial burden on the town of Gawler ratepayers. Right, the next item of business was 9.2, the Gawler Murray Street South car park and recreation vehicle parking. Now, after some debate, which was largely centred around the consideration of the proposal to put a 48-hour time limit on people or RVs parking in the Murray Street South car park, there was a little bit of debate each way whether it was a good idea or not a good idea. As a result of that debate, council did resolve that they would, and I'll just read out the resolution for you, they would continue with the allocation of the Murray Street South car park area for long day parking, permitting up to 48 hours of continuous use for the fully self-contained recreational vehicles. And we would also do some work on improving the signage in that area. Item 9.3 was an item where we considered the Border Collie Nationals, which are due to be held in October 2027. And there was a proposal before council to support the Border Collie Nationals being held in the town of Gawler. I'm pleased to say that council resolved that they would actively support the event, and in fact they will provide approximately $16,500 of in-kind support to make sure the event is a success. Just for context, the event is looking to bring about 500 exhibitors and international judges to the event, and we expect a large number of state and interstate visitors to come and take part in this event, which hopefully will be a key economic driver for our community. So the next item of business is item 9.4, and that was to consider the Northern Adelaide Waste Management Authority Board Chair reappointment. Now, Council had before it a recommendation that Mr. Graham Dooley, our current independent chair, be reappointed for a further 2 years, and I'm pleased to advise that Council unanimously resolved to support that reappointment. So it's a good outcome. Next item, 9.5, was the Audit and Risk Committee annual report. Again, the recommendation there was to simply endorse their annual report, and I'm pleased to say that the Council was very happy with the report and the work that that committee's been doing over the past year, and that was adopted unanimously. 9.6 was the monthly finance report, and that was displaying our finances up to the end of 30th of June 2025. And it's interesting, I'll read out the two parts of the recommendation there. The first was for Council to note that they've considered the monthly report, noting that there's a preliminary operating result for the 24-25 financial year showing a favourable variance of $2.6 million. Now, that is an excellent result, but it is quite a bit higher than we had initially or budgeted, mainly because the federal government has prepaid or paid us early a component of the financial assistance grants. So it's kind of artificially inflated our surplus for this year, even though I'm very happy to say that we finished the year with a strong surplus. The other part of the motion was to note that our fees and charges for dog registrations were effectively to be maintained at last year's levels and not increased for CPI. Now, I must admit, this came about due to administrative oversight, but the flow-on is a good outcome for every dog owner in our community, where this year's fees and charges will be maintained at last year's levels. And those two components were adopted unanimously by Council. Now, following on from that, we had consideration of the information reports. We had a report that was put up by Acting Mayor Shanks and myself with regard to our attendance at the Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly in Canberra. Now, Nathan and I provided a summary of the activities that we undertook while in Canberra. And I guess at the core of it, it was about Nathan and I getting in front of federal politicians seeking to drive positive outcomes for the town of Gawler, and particularly trying to get financial contributions to large projects that we might be looking at in the future. Now, it wasn't a sitting week in Canberra when we were there, unfortunately, but we still had a very good conversation with the Minister for Local Government, and I want to do a shout out to our local federal member, Matt Burnell, who worked hard to get us that meeting, because out of 1,300 delegates that went to the conference, there was only a handful that had an opportunity to have one-on-one conversations with Christy McBain. So they went very well as far as we're concerned, and Council noted that unanimously. The other report that was for noting was about our electricity procurement outcomes. Now, what this is code for is that Council's been for quite a while trying to negotiate a power purchasing agreement combined with 5 other councils across Metro Adelaide to try and get certainty about the cost of our electricity. And so I'm pleased to say that my team have worked hard and we've managed to lock in a long-term electricity supply from renewable wind farm energy. And in this first year, we're looking to save about $50,000. I'm hoping that's a fairly conservative estimate, and in fact, it may be higher. But the beauty of this contract is that for the next 10 odd years, we will have certainty about the cost of our power and won't be susceptible to increased pricing that has become the norm lately. So it's a good outcome. And then we looked at recommendations from committees. So the Audit and Risk Committee minutes were reviewed, and also the Gawler Youth Advisory Committee minutes from July were reviewed, and Council noted those and having regard for their contents. And the last item of business in open council was the consideration of the external body minutes. And so the 2 groups of minutes we looked at were the Elderly Centre Advisory Working Group minutes and the Regional Public Health Plan Advisory Group meeting minutes. And again, council noted those unanimously, and with nothing untoward happening there. Now, I've gone through that quite quickly. Again, I want to apologise for the fact that our sound system did not work. Please rest assured I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that we rectify that, and that going forward we have a seamless way of you, our community, taking part in our council meetings, either sitting in the chamber or enjoying the live stream. Thank you, everybody. I hope this has been helpful. Have a great day.